Hey everybody, Ethan Andy's Roofing. I want to show you something today that I found on a roof inspection that really doesn't have anything to do with roofing, but it's something that a home inspector did not catch. So backstory is these homeowners moved into this home about 2 months ago, and when the home inspection came back, they did not find this. And this is not roof related, but I want to show you that when you buy a home, you should probably get someone that specializes in that field to look at it besides just a home inspector. So I'm going to flip this around here. What we're looking at here is called James Hardie siding. And so James Hardie siding is a straight lap cement type press board that they installed here on the side of this house. So the way it goes on is you start at the bottom and you install another piece on top of it and you nail it, and you put another piece on top of that and you nail it, and you go all the way up. Okay, so what I see on this project immediately, I came over here and was looking at this, is you got this joint right here, and if I push on this, it's kind of wibble wobbly. So if I push that in, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see where that nail has actually pulled through the James Hardie, and it was installed above the nail line just a smidge. So I start looking back a little further. Can y'all see this board right here? This James Hardie siding board that doesn't look quite like the other ones. There's a good reason for that, and the reason is that this is an unpainted piece of Hardie board siding. Okay, so unpainted when everything else is painted should have been kind of like a telltale warning that something's not right here, but it looks like maybe it was a previous repair or something going on here, but they did not paint it the same color as the other siding. And they did what's called face nailing. So face nailing right here is never a good idea on Hardie siding because it can mess it up, it can split out, you can overdrive, or in this case underdrive it, and it leaves these nails exposed. But if we look here, these are overdriven right here. This is not painted all around here. It doesn't match up here. On these new pieces, when you install Hardie siding, if you're a good Hardie installer, you put basically in every butt joint, which is where these two pieces come together, you slide a little piece of aluminum, or at the very least paper, or some kind of water resistant or waterproof material up in behind these, maybe about that wide, maybe 3 or 4 inches wide, and that keeps wind-driven rain or water in general from getting in this crack and running back behind the next piece of siding. So this right here, they did not do it on these ones. On the original ones, they actually did. But if you look here, on the original ones, you've got some that have been face nailed. You've got this piece right here that was put up underneath here, and they're kind of sticking out, which is just more of a nitpick thing than anything. It doesn't really mean it's bad. But if we look over here, this one, this is not good. So this piece especially is super wibble wobbly. So that is kind of I mean, not even a telltale sign that this Hardie was not installed correctly, and at the very least they did a repair down here and didn't do it right, and probably didn't want to redo the whole area, which I can understand, but you've got to let the homeowner know up front what they're getting into. And then ultimately, a lot of these Hardie planks have pulled through the nails because they either overdrove them or they nailed them too high. And so something else I want to show you guys, it's kind of, this area is what it is, but let me show you a different area. So I'm going up here to this other side, and this is what really kind of set me off to all of this, is that when I started looking at this Hardie, I started noticing that there was some dimples that shouldn't have been there. And then I got closer, and if you guys can read that, that says James Hardie upside down. And so here's a perfect example of what a Hardie plank siding is. And if you look right here, right here, there's indentions, and that is called your nail line. And so that nail line is where you're supposed to put your nails. So from 1 inch in to 3/4 of an inch up, so you can put it, they say you can put it just a little bit higher or lower than this. Really, in this case, it would be lower. But what I'm getting at here, guys, and this is kind of funny, is this Hardie siding was installed upside down. And so this one was installed upside down. This one was installed upside down. I think there's a couple more down through here that were installed upside down. So you're never supposed to do that, for one thing. I mean, if the wording is upside down, usually it means that it's upside down. So that's just something else kind of that I noticed on this project. This is not necessarily roof related, but when you start seeing stuff like this poor craftsmanship, it just makes you want to look at everything. And so coming back to the roof, I'm gonna go back to the area that it was. This homeowner was experiencing quite a few leaks. And so I started looking for these leaks, and this is an old 3-tab roof. So basically a 3-tab roof is where you have these block style shingles, and for every full shingle you have 3 little tabs or 2 slits in it that make those 3 tabs. So they usually last anywhere from 10 to 15, some of them will last 20 years, and they have a 60-mile-per-hour wind speed rating from the manufacturer. So sometimes they last a little longer, sometimes they don't, but I'm looking on this slope and they had a leak over here that was leaking through their ceiling in a couple different spots, and I'm looking at the flashing. So the flashing is this stuff right here underneath the siding that goes underneath the shingle. And what it is you put a shingle at the very bottom, you put a piece of step flashing, which is this L-shaped flashing that's like this. It's about 8 inches this way, it's like this. So you put your first shingle, you put that flashing over top of it, you put your next shingle over top of that, you put the next one over top of that, and you work your way up. It's called step flashing. It steps all the way up and it overlaps the last piece. And what that does is in those shingles, if we just took shingles and we butted them into the side of this, wind and rain would come in and get right in that crack. So when you put that L-shaped step flashing in there, it allows that to keep the water from going behind your siding. But as we look here, we got a problem, because when you overlap that step flashing going down, you nail and then you cover that nail with the next piece of step flashing going in. Some guys recommend that you nail it into the wall and leave the bottom exposed. I personally do not do that. We don't do that at Andy's Roofing. The reason why is that homes expand and contract and they move ever so slightly, especially on newer homes that haven't settled quite right, you know, maybe 10, 15 years, you know, new, and so they might move a little bit. We don't nail into the siding and leave this part exposed down here that can move underneath the shingles and have problems. We'll nail it right here, and then you put another piece of step flashing over top of that nail about 1.5 inches to 2 inches just to be safe. And what we can see here where I put this arrow is they have nailed on top of the step flashing on this piece instead of nailing it here where another piece would have covered it. So as you can see, this little nail is right in between here, so wind-driven rain can come right here. This is the source of their leaks inside. And so thankfully it's not super bad yet, but you can see here where debris is building up, water can sit on that nail and it will rust it out. So if you guys have learned anything from this video, learn what step flashing is, the correct use of step flashing up the sidewalls here. If you have a hardy installer, you want to use a hardy installer that knows what they're doing, not someone that does vinyl that says that they can do hardy but they don't do it a lot. Vinyl and hardy are 2 totally different animals. If you cut a piece of hardy, you have to paint the end of it, and a lot of guys don't do that. They don't care, they don't know, and so what that'll do is it'll allow moisture to get in there, and so that 30-year warranty that you get on the hardy planks, they void that warranty. They don't put that little piece up behind where the butt joints come together, and so wind-driven rain can get right in there. So you want to make sure that you take care of that stuff on the front end. Vet your contractors that are doing your hardy. Talk to your roofer to make sure that they know how to put step flashing and not how to nail it incorrectly, and then ultimately how to put on a good roof system. So hope you all enjoyed this video, and we're gonna have more to come.